Hello, I will be explaining how to use the VR camera from Arnold inside of Maya. A world that's relatively big is in here, and it's all set up for rendering. There's lights and textures, and there's like a tower, and we want to be right on top of that tower looking around into the world around us. So there's a camera there, which is a standard Maya camera, and if we render this, we get a normal view from the tower. We want to look all the way around. We want to get a 360 view. Maya itself doesn't have that option, but Arnold does. If we go to our attribute editor, scroll down to the Arnold options for the camera, by default, the camera type is perspective. We can change that to VR camera. And then there's a couple of options you want to look at. Because it's doing a stereoscopic render, it renders two images. And if we look at this right now, you see it's doing over, under, one top on top of the other. That's the one you want if you want to publish it to, for instance, YouTube, and it's generally the best to use. You can also do side by side. We got two images next to each other, which is not as efficient in using screen space because you're wasting a lot of space on top and bottom, whereas you don't have enough to go around. So you want to change that back to over, under. You can also render one of the separate eyes. The projection determines how the world is viewed all the way around. Let long is a normal one for VR. Let's put it onto a cube map. And now it will render like this, all the different views, which is good for texture mapping on a cube, but it's rarely used for a regular rendering, and it is not what we want to use if we put it on YouTube or if we want to go to Unity. So we're basically all set. Of course, we do need to change our render settings because this is way too small for VR or for 360 renders. You need to go to like probably a 4K square. For this example, do a 2K square so we don't have to wait forever. In my Arnold view, I'm going to set a test resolution to like 50%. Let's see if that works. Oh, I'm still on the cube map. Let's make that a lat long. There we go. It still doesn't fit my render view. Let's go to a test resolution of 25%. Look, there we go. So now it's doing a nice over-under render. But how do we know how far those two eyes that it's rendering need to be apart? There is an eye separation. And if you change the eye separation to be like really big, you can see that the difference between the two images gets bigger. If they're close together, there's hardly any difference between the left and the right. And if they're far apart, there's a big shift. So how much should that separation be? If we built our world in the exact correct scale, we could just use the actual distance between the two eyes, which is about 62 millimeters. But this world was built just randomly at any scale. I didn't pay much attention. So how do I now figure out how far those eyes need to be apart? There's a little trick. I put an actual character in my scene. So if I make the eye separation the same as the difference between these eyes, I would have a reasonable estimate. So you want to put a measure tool in, place those two measure indicators at the eyes, one at each eye, and we get a distance. And the distance in this case is just about, if we highlight the measure tool, you can see it, 0.019. So say 0.02. So if we then go to our render camera, to the attribute editor, we can put that 0.02 into our eye separation, and we should have a reasonable estimate of what the eyes distance should be. And if we get the eye separation correct, we get the depth in the scene correctly rendered. Of course, you then want to turn off your character again before you start rendering. And happy rendering. Say you want to use this for VR and have the tower actually in VR and only the background rendered as a 360 movie. You do not want to include the actual tower in your render. In that case, you select the tower, you go to your attribute editor, go to the render stats and turn off primary visibility. So it will no longer be itself visible in the render, but its shadow will still be visible. And now you can place a tower in VR and look out at this beautiful mountain landscape with grass-ish stuff in front of it and have a nice virtual world. So that's really brief, showing you how to use the Arnold VR Cam in Maya. Do not forget to place your camera at eye level and make sure the X and Z rotations on your camera are 0, otherwise your world will be tilted. Thank you.